Today we're doing Module 5, Lesson 22. The objective is to generate simple equivalent fractions by using visual fraction models and the number line. Materials needed for today are your online whiteboard or your whiteboard dry erase marker and dry eraser. You may also want your fraction strips out because you can look at them to help you find what fractions are equivalent or are the same. The teaching style we're going to follow is where I do it, we do it together, and then you do it on your own. First, I'm going to show you an example. It says use the models to find the equivalent fractions. Remember, equivalent means equal or the same as. So we're trying to find fractions that are the same. Okay. Today we're practicing this with visual models, but what you could be doing is you could be getting out your fraction strips and you can lay them next to each other to also compare, okay? So you can use your fraction strips in addition to the models that we're using today. So I need to figure out what the equivalent fractions are. So I'm just going to put my equal sign here. I'm going to have a fraction for this model and a fraction for this model. Now remember, the numerator is the number that goes on top. The numerator represents how many pieces are shaded. The denominator is the number on bottom. The denominator never changes. The denominator is always going to be how many pieces the shape is broken into. Okay? So if I look at my first one here, there's 1, 2, 3 pieces. Okay, the shape is broken into 3 pieces, so my denominator is 3. Two of those pieces are shaded, so that is going to be my numerator. So the fraction that represents this model is 2/3. Now let's look at the fraction for the other model. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces in it. So this shape has 6 pieces, which means the denominator is 6. One, two, three, 4 of those pieces are shaded, so that's our numerator. So according to our model, 2/3 is equal to 4/6. So if you take your strip that's broken into thirds, and you take your strip that's broken into sixths, and you line them next to each other, the 2 and the 4 will be right next to each other. So let me show you what I mean for that. If you have your fraction strips, and you lay them right next to each other like this, and if you have them with you, I suggest you get them out and take a look. If you have your one that's broken into thirds, and then you have one that's broken into sixths, this fraction is 2/3, so I'm going to shade 2 out of the 3. This fraction is 4/6, so I'm going to shade 4 out of the 6. And you can see that they come to the same spot. Okay, they line up, they are equal or the same. So when we say 2 fractions are equivalent, we mean that they equal the same thing. Okay, as you can see, this part that's shaded and this part that's shaded are the same. Okay, let's go ahead and have you do an example with me. Same thing, use the models to find equivalent fractions. So you don't need to draw the models, but what I do want you to write on your whiteboard is your line for your first fraction equals, and your line for your second fraction. So get that ready on your whiteboard, and then we'll fill in our fractions. If you want, you can get out your fraction strips as well. Let's figure out which fraction strips you're going to need. Let's go ahead and figure out our denominators for both. Let's start with this one over here. Go ahead and count how many pieces there are all together. How many pieces is our shape broken into? And hold that number up with your fingers. Should have been holding up 2. This piece is broken into 1, 2. So our denominator is 2. Now look at the blue shape. Take a second, don't hold up your fingers yet, but count how many pieces this shape is broken into. Okay, go ahead and hold that number up with your fingers. 6. Okay. This piece is broken into 6. So if you're getting out your fraction strips, you'll need the one that's broken into 2 equal pieces, and you'll need the one that's broken into 6 equal pieces. I'm going to give you a moment to get those out if you want them out. Okay, let's look at what part is shaded. On this one, our numerator is going to be 1 because only one piece is shaded. Go ahead and look at your blue shape, figure out what your numerator is going to be. Think about it for a moment. And hold up your fingers. What will our numerator be? 3. We have 1, 2, 3 pieces shaded. So, according to our models, 1/2 is equal to 3/6. If you look, the amount of space that they take up on the model is the same. If you have your fraction strips, you can look. 1/2 is equal to 1, 2, 3/6. They also come to the same place. And then I also wanted to go over a little trick with you. It's not something you need to know yet for today, but it's something that we're going to look at later. So it's just something for you to think about. If we look at this 1 here, 1 times 3 equals 3. Our 2 on the bottom times 3 equals 6. So if we multiply both numbers by the same thing, if we multiply both numbers by 3, we end up getting 3/6, and they are the same. Nothing that we're going to do right now, but just a little trick to be thinking about. Okay, let's go ahead and go over one more example. On your whiteboard, set up your fraction equals fraction. Okay, let's go ahead and count to figure out your denominator, so your bottom number, and fill that in on your board. Find your denominator for this shape and fill that in on your board, and then we'll go over it together. Okay, our denominator for the green one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's broken into 8 pieces, so our denominator is 8. For the purple, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's broken into 4 pieces, so our denominator is 4. So now that we know our denominator, you could be getting out your fraction strips to lay them next to each other. You need one that's broken into 8ths and one that's broken into 4ths. Now go ahead and count your numerator and write that down for both shapes, and then we'll check your answer with mine. Okay, let's count for the numerator. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shaded pieces. Over here, 1, 2, 3 shaded pieces. So 6/8 is equal to 3/4. Those are equivalent fractions. On our number strips, that would look like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces, and 1, 2, 3 pieces, and they come to the same spot on our number strip. Another little trick you might be seeing, 6 divided by 2 equals 3, 8 divided by 2 equals 4. So just like the last one, if you do the same thing to both numbers, you can get an equivalent fraction. But we will go over that more on another day. All right, let's talk about what your homework is going to be. IXL skill W1, find equivalent fractions using area models, 2 models. So in your example, IXL might say, use the models to complete the equivalent fraction sentence. The colored pieces in each model show parts of the whole. Okay, so you're going to have 2 pictures just like we did. And then you've got your fraction below that shows your equivalent fractions. And you have to figure out how many shaded pieces there are, which is your numerator or number on top. And for this one, it looks like they give you the denominator, but there may be somewhere you need to fill that denominator in. Remember, the denominator is how many pieces the shape is broken into all together. Go ahead and get started.